to see you, Tracy. All right, why is it that it is so hard to solve these when people are so fascinated and willing to consume so much information about these cases and talk about them after they're solved?
Well, thank you for having me, Leland, and thank you for the attention that you're bringing to these cases. Quite frankly, it's incredibly important, and it's interesting. I talk about this with my criminal justice students, the wedding cake model of crimes, right? And these crimes are really at the top level, right, of the wedding cake, and they really just represent a small percentage. But to your point, you're absolutely right. They're the ones that get the most amount of media attention. And just in the research that I've done, if we look at Gilgo Beach, for example, if we look at the Long Island serial killer, that was an example of law enforcement really botching a lot of the case, quite frankly, and not bringing in other resources a lot sooner. And I think just in the research I'm doing that seems to be the case that's going on here. A lot of these people are crossing state lines in the crimes that they're doing, and that becomes a federal investigation. And we have to throw all of those resources and funding at this. And it's really become almost an ego wanting to hold on to these cases. And that's hugely problematic in solving that.
How much of this has to do with, and we have to be sort of direct and honest about this, who the victims are oftentimes? You think about the Gilgo Beach murders, they were all sex workers. A lot of these serial killers, that is in the end up who ends up being murdered. What's confusing and confounding, though, is that some of the serial killers that are still on the loose, if it indeed, for example, is one, which is in the Chicago waterway murders and the Austin murders that you and I have talked about, that's not the case. Does who the victims are matter?
You know, I appreciate you for being so blunt and bringing that up, because we have to talk about it. Yes, I think it does matter. If you look at the West Mesa Bone Collector, all of those were sex workers. And if we look at the Jeff Davis 8, a lot of them also had ties to sex trafficking and sex working, and same with Long Island serial killer. But that doesn't mean that they're disposable and don't matter. Their deaths matter too, and we have to be investigating those. And I do think that serial killers count on that. And that's, again, a huge problem in investigating these, is that because they come from maybe these marginalized communities or marginalized areas of society, they are hoping that their deaths won't be reported and that they won't be properly investigated. And that is a common theme sometimes that I do see throughout law enforcement.
All right. When we look at these other serial killers that are clearly still out there, and it would appear as though, based just sort of on the number of unsolved murders, are continuing to kill, why is it so hard, A, to get attention to the cases, but B, to solve them when we realize, especially in the case of Huerman, he was quite literally hiding in plain sight?
I mean, you're right. Huerman was the guy next door, right? And I think all of us, and this is going to sound a little psychological, but it is something I teach in class. A lot of us, this fascination, I guess, that comes with serial killers is because it's so deviant, right? It's something that's completely beyond our scope of understanding. And I do think when you have someone like Huerman or these people next door, men next door, quite frankly, really, that's very shocking. That sends shockwaves through society. And the reality is, and I don't think anyone wants to think about the fact that a lot of these perpetrators are really hiding in plain sight. I would say the vast majority of them are hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, and that probably is the scariest part of it all, right? That you really have to think and contemplate about. And so many of these killings are targeted, and so many of them are people in the wrong place at the wrong time, which if the Chicago cases are serial killers, that's exactly what's happening. Tracy, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.